This is a document that I found recently in the National Archives. This is from the Nagasaki British Consulate archives. This was a letter written by Nagasaki Consul George Morrison to his superiors in Tokyo, which was still called Edo at the time, dated in 1863. And in this letter, he tells his superiors that he has been informed by Thomas Glover about an assassination plot, and that he had to take various precautions in order to avoid this plot. If you look at this one sentence, I know you can read English, but I'll read it also. Mr. Glover is fluent in the Japanese language and is on terms of intimacy and friendship with many Japanese of rank, amongst whom he is much esteemed. There are 2 points, I think, in this short sentence. One is that he's fluent in Japanese. This is in 1863, only 4 years after Thomas Glover came to Japan. There were no English dictionaries. There were no teaching materials by which he could study academically the Japanese language. It's obvious that unlike many of the other foreigners who were in Nagasaki at the time, he went beyond the borders of the foreign settlement and associated directly with Japanese people, both, I should say, male and female, and absorbed the Japanese language and knowledge of Japanese culture directly from his associations with Japanese people. And I think this is a very important point in understanding the achievements of Thomas Glover and the position that he attained in Japan. The second point, of course, is that he was associating with many Japanese of rank, and he was much esteemed by them. This comment also, I think, is extremely significant. Why was he so esteemed by obviously he's referring to the Japanese samurai class. What was it in Thomas Glover's character? What was it about him that distinguished him from some of the other Western merchants who were in Nagasaki? If possible, in the remaining minutes of my presentation, I'd like to try to answer that question. Of course, the Japanese of rank were the young Japanese samurai who were envisioning a different future for Japan and who were asking Glover's assistance in going to England to study. For example, the Choshu Five was a group that was sent in the same year of 1863 to study at the University of London. As I've made the caption here, we have Inoue Kaoru, who would go on to be the foreign minister of Japan. And behind him is Endo Kinsuke, who would be the director of the Osaka Mint, the first mint that produced the first modern currency in Japan. Inoue Masaru, the father of Japanese railroads. Yamao Yozo, a very prominent statesman in the Meiji government. And Ito Hirobumi in the background, who was the first Japanese prime minister, served for 4 terms as prime minister, was the leading statesman in Japan, and throughout his life, a very close friend of Thomas Blake Glover. A movie has been made recently, just last year, about the Choshu Five. I don't know if this has been made available in Scotland, but I hope it will be. I haven't seen it either. I'm very curious to know who played the role of Thomas Glover in this movie. This is a photograph from the Baudouin collection, which recently was acquired by Nagasaki University. The foreign community of Nagasaki is probably are all assembled. This was a picnic on an island near Nagasaki. To see the front part, you see Abel Gower, the British consul in Nagasaki, William Alt, who I mentioned before, Baudouin, whose photographs will provide a very important record of the Nagasaki foreign settlement. And in the front, at the center, sitting like he knows everything about everything, is a young Thomas Blake Glover. And just from the atmosphere of this photograph, you can see that he was playing a leading role in the foreign settlement. So not just making very close contacts with Japanese of rank, but also serving as a leader of the foreign community. And there's countless references, for example, in the old English newspapers of Nagasaki, referring to Glover and his importance to the foreign community. And this, of course, went beyond nationality, religion, and social background. This is a photograph of the Nagasaki foreign settlement showing the Nagasaki Bund meaning waterfront street. This was the first street of its kind in Japan. You can see there's a promenade for walking. Also, the first lamps in Japan were established here. It was on this little stretch of land that Thomas Glover introduced the first steam locomotive to Japan, which unfortunately I think is slightly misunderstood, because at this time no large ships could come up to the wharf in Nagasaki. All goods and passengers had to be transferred onto small boats and then brought to the Nagasaki foreshore. So it's impossible that a full gauge locomotive was brought ashore in Nagasaki in 1865. And I found from other documents also that it was a small model that Thomas Glover had purchased in Shanghai and brought to Nagasaki for an exhibition. And what happened to it after that is also unknown. The point is that here we see a change occurring in Thomas Glover's business activities. To this point, he was a trader. He was selling things to Japan and selling Japanese products abroad. And his company, of course, flourished doing that. But from around this period, and I think the steam locomotive is an excellent example, he began to invest in the future of Japan and began to suffer, you could say, losses to that end. He brought the steam locomotive not to sell to the Japanese, but to show them the potential of steam locomotion. This was in 1865. And 7 years later, the first train line would open between Yokohama and Tokyo. But it was Thomas Glover who was there in Nagasaki, showing Japanese people directly the potential of steam locomotion and showing them what it could mean for the future of Japan. The fact that this occurrence, this event, is not very well known, it's not documented. Thomas Glover never wrote any kind of a diary or autobiography. It was just by coincidence, really, that the story of this train came to light.